Hey everyone, it's Asa, and welcome to my guide for advanced Akali positioning. Before I get into the advanced stuff, I will cover the basics. Akali jumps to the farthest target within 4 hexes. Note that Four-Mentor Kobuko has the same targeting, so you can use the same principles. Um, so most people will have their carry in the corner. So by default, you can hit the corner from one of these hexes that's one off from the middle hex. This is because this is always the furthest. 1, 2, 3, 4. And over on the other side, 1, 2, 3, 4. Note that if they have 2 units, that's a 50-50 which one of these Akali will go on. Of course, a straight line, 4 hexes, is going to be a further distance than, say, 1, 2, 3, 4. This Aatrox is closer than these. And if you count like this and it takes more than 4 hexes, like over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is too far away, even though it's not. Even though it's basically this is not 4 hexes directly. This is too far away. Um, so on your side, of course, if you're playing against Akali, most people will default their Akalis here. So if you corner your carry, if they're same side, this is dangerous. You can do this, have a 50-50. To be kind of safe in other matchups, because you could just do something like this. Other people can counter this, of course, by moving their Akali here, in which case this will be 4 hexes. This is kind of hard to read unless you're doing it very often. However, I will say in most matchups, you don't want to compromise having your carry in the corner, which is the safest place in other matchups. So oftentimes, what you can do is a positioning that won't compromise your positioning too much against other players, but will help you be safe against the Akali. So normally, your opponent will have their Akali here with some other frontliners, and the positioning that I recommend doing is something along these lines. You're not going to have this many frontliners, so you don't necessarily have to have some of these on the left. You don't necessarily have to have this one, depending on how strong this unit is. I recommend having this one just because if you have anyone in your rotation that has a strong melee carry, not even necessarily a strong melee carry, even something like a Braum that could potentially walk up on here if they kill this unit, you don't want your front line in front of your Jinx to be too weak. But again, it depends what you have. For example, if you have a Poppy 2, really decked out items here, maybe like over here you have your Cassante, you're playing Star Guardians. This might be okay, but in general, I prefer to protect my carry here. So you need this unit here because basically what's going to happen is at the start of the fight, this Akali force walks here and this walks up here. These two units will both move at the same time. Neither one of them has a target. This one has to move here, which means Akali has to move here. And now you can see that within 4 hexes away, she can jump to this unit over here. This is always going to be 4 hexes. But even if your opponent doesn't have a frontliner here, this walks up here. At least she's not jumping to Jinx. She might still jump to this tank here. Maybe she'll jump to this Xayah down here. By Xayah, I simply mean like any unit. You don't really care if Akali kills it. Obviously, it's ideal if it jumps to front line, but this is okay. Sometimes you're going to be playing a comp without that many backliners. Like if you're playing Kog'Maw reroll, you might have 6 Bastions and only your Kog'Maw over here. This would still be fine, so this would still go frontline. So is there an easy way to flip board? I'm not sure if there is, but let's look at from the Akali player's perspective. So once again, let's say they have their carry in the corner here. And they're doing the positioning like this. So if you're again defaulting Akali and people are not anti-positioning, this is 4 hexes away, you'll get there. But if they're doing this walks here, and this is not far enough. So basically, there's a few things you can do here. It honestly depends on a lot of what their backliners are, but basically you want to make sure that wherever your Akali walks, this is going to be the furthest unit, right? So there's it honestly depends on exactly what your opponent does. But one thing you can do in the setup, a pretty common setup, is if they don't have a unit here, actually. Sorry, I got confused for a second. Okay, actually, let me talk about this one first, because another common setup is like this, where so if they have Akali here, it jumps on Xayah first, it's always furthest away in kind of the default positioning. They don't necessarily have to do it right here. You could also do Xayah over here, and also it's usually safe to have one in the middle as well. Otherwise, potentially Akali here could be a problem. But generally, this is another position that will be pretty safe. This can be in either one to bait the Akali. So again, what you want to do over here is have your Akali start her first jump when she's 4 hexes away from this Jinx. So regardless of how your opponent kind of spreads their backliners here, you want your Akali to start here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. So what you want to do here is you want your Akali to start here. The best way I have found to force that is to prevent her from moving with a Janna here. It's a little too unpredictable if you use a melee unit. Basically, this doesn't have to be Janna. It can be like whatever, like a set of 1, whatever comp you're playing. If you have a filler range unit that you don't need, ideally. So you put it right here, you put Akali here to force Akali to walk here, and then your frontliners can kind of go. They can kind of go wherever, as long as you don't have one preventing these units from walking up. So you have something like this, right? Like these units might walk, however, it doesn't really matter. But this will always walk up to Janna. I mean, I guess if it doesn't, if this walks up to Janna this way, one of these two has to walk up to Janna, it doesn't matter. Akali will always walk here, stop here, and then her first dash will go on the pocket. So that's how you can counter the pocket positioning. So going back to the other one, yeah, I guess I'm not entirely sure if there's anything reliable against this, but I have seen people kind of use this setup, where they just leave a gap here. To counter this, you can actually go Akali left side and bait their tanks to the right side. So you can kind of use like the Battle Academia positioning. Oftentimes you're just going to want your strong tanks on the same side as your carry. So let's say you have Cassante, maybe you have like Rise with items. You can do something like this, right? So this middle rel, whatever unit this is always going to walk this way because Akali is further away, right? Like this is 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes. This is 1, 2, 3. So these units will always walk this way, and now Akali can jump here. Even if they have a unit in the middle, right here, this is too far away for Akali to jump to, so it will always go in the corner. That being said, if they do this positioning, I could see. Oh yeah, this should still work, right? Because this unit will definitely not be. This unit will definitely not be further than the Jinx. So like this might walk. Basically, they'll start like this, right? So this will walk here. This will walk here. This will walk here. This might walk up. And then regardless of whether this walks up more or not, I think it will always go on Jinx first here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 hexes here. So if this rel stops here, that's a problem. Will that happen? Assuming you have 3 cannons over here. I haven't tried this. I haven't had the opportunity to try this recently. But as long as this rel doesn't stop here, as long as it walks one more, which I think this setup will work. But if not, let me see. So this will be one step, one step, one step, one step. Yeah, and I guess this could walk up one more. I guess you can't have a unit here, or else it could potentially stop the rel, because then it's kind of a 50-50 which one walks. So maybe you could try it here. Does this always work? Sorry. Again, I haven't had the chance to test this recently, but kind of showing you guys how pathing works in general, I guess, which is fine, and the process of it. So, like, say this is our default positioning. This always walks. This always walks here. This always walks here. This always walks up. Always walks up. These always walk up. And this always goes here. So yeah, I think this should always work. This will go here always. And then Akali will always go to Jinx. As long as I don't have a unit here. This is just pretty uncommon. I haven't really seen anyone default this. So yeah, if your opponent is doing this kind of positioning, you can counter it with this exactly. Having a unit here might make this drill stop here, which will make Akali go this way. And if your opponent does the pocket on this side, you can do... Ideally, you have a range unit here to force it. I'm not really sure if there's like a... There might be a better way to do it, but having a range unit to force Akali to walk in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, now it's the furthest away from your primary target. Is there a better way to force that? I'm not really sure. I kind of feel like you have to use a range unit. The issue is if we use a melee unit here, Akali might walk up here before Cannon walks up here, and obviously we can't put our cannon here because it might just walk first. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for my video on advanced Akali positioning. So hopefully we've seen a few things you can do against Akali. Once again, I can show it from our perspective since I've kind of shown you enemy perspective. You can do this spot, in which case your enemy default Akali, your furthest unit will be here. Or you can kind of do this spot where your enemy default Akali. This will have to walk up here, this will walk up here, and now you'll usually have something further in your front line. If not, you could just have a bait backline unit over here as well. If you have any comments or questions, let me know in the Discord, and thank you for watching.